Hey man, it's your boy Mr. V again. So I'm here just thinking on my own, right? How we as South Africans, I only know South Africa, so I always speak about South Africa because that's where I know best. I don't know it all, but that's where I've lived all my life. Now, I'm just thinking to myself how we love having executive conversations instead of having the proper nitty-gritty conversations. So we enjoy having a conversation centered around Zama. I don't know if I'm even calling them right, but yeah, the zamas, right? How bad they're doing and how they're killing people, which really we have to talk about it. But we don't seem to have a conversation about, for instance, who buys these minerals that the zamas bring out, right? Who gives them a tip that you can use that shaft and. But more importantly, right? Because it's not like this place was just a place in jail, you know. The place was a mine. It was a legal mine that somebody had gotten licenses, certificates, or whatever the case, to be able to mine in the place. And it's so surprising that we never have a conversation to say, when the person or the company or people who were given licenses to mine were mining, and they saw that, okay, maybe it's no longer as profitable for them, and so forth and so forth. What actually happened in terms of rehabilitating the land, making sure that those shafts are closed and all that jazz, right? Because we never seem to have that conversation. And sometimes I understand, maybe it's too deep for us to have a conversation over, and it suits us best to just look at zamas and say, you know what, we blame them and. I think they're enabled. There is somebody who makes sure that these guys have got, if it's guns, if it's whatever supplies, to go down under and be able to mine whatever little they can come up with, right? And the resources are going to be sold and probably put into the system in whatever way. I'm sure they are smart, these people. But we never have a conversation. And again, I've said this so many times that for me, EFF speaks to me, and their policies speaks to what I believe in. Hence, I find myself voting for them, you know. When you speak about a mine, this is a land, right? And that somebody's going and digging under and doing whatever they're doing. We don't know how many kilometers under the ground they're moving, and so forth and so forth. When they are doing that, why do we never get to a level of thinking, is it wise for us to allow a private company, private individual who can get a license from government to actually mine? Is it, and I might be shooting from the dark here, right? Because I remember I had a conversation with someone who said, look, government gives this kind of projects that that would seem not so profitable for them. Hence they would go for partnerships and so forth. But they would rather give a private individual a license to go and mine, because it means they will come with the resources. But for me, it's said that when they leave, when they've made this money, they never rehabilitate the land as they should. And I'm pretty sure that they do give some form of a I will do it, you know, I will rehabilitate the land, and so forth and so forth. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know, but I think it's worth a conversation to say perhaps we ought to look at having government more involved, or own these mines, if you like. Find out what they can do about it. I mean, you look at what they've done with Gold Reef City. It was a mine, and they did something phenomenal about it. I'm not too sure if that forms part of the rehabilitation. But you just look at that and you're like, you know what? These people who thought about it, they were actually very smart to think, let's just find something to do with the place, you know. Nobody would go and mine or do anything that's funny in there, because there are activities that are going on and that are making money, and so forth and so forth. So for me, I think instead of having a conversation about Zama, and I'm not saying they're right in how they do things and so forth. No, they are wrong in every way that you can imagine. However, I would like for us to have an executive conversation to say, or a deeper conversation to say, why is it that we never know what happened to the mine, or to the mine owner who was given a license, and maybe even go to an extent of naming and shaming, you know, to say, you know what, guys of who were given this mine, they got the mine, they worked on the mine, and they left the mine not rehabilitated for some reason, and we would like to call them out. We would like to say they must never get any projects, and so forth and so forth. Oh shucks, this thing. But anyway, yeah, they must never get any permission to mine in the country. Maybe blacklist them for somehow, you know. And I don't know, but for me, it's just a conversation that's worth having. Maybe involve people who know a thing or two about the mining space, instead of just having a conversation about zamas who are a fraction of this entire I don't want to use a value chain, but the cabal of some sort, you know, because they're enabled. You know, there's somebody who, I'm sure they've got bosses, I'm sure the bosses have got bosses, I'm sure there's kingpins of some sort in the entire thing. So if we are to have a conversation around those, and I it's very funny that in private spaces, in pockets, those conversations would be had, but they never go as deep as they should. The conversations would go on, conversations would be held, conversations would take place here, there, and everywhere, but not in spaces that matter. What are spaces that matter? In my view, I'm talking media, for an example, and not social media alone. Social media is doing phenomenal stuff, because they're now speaking, they're now uncovering things that the main media would hide. But I'm talking these news channels. There must be channels that go around trying to find out if there is something that should be done, or if there's something that somebody did not do, and they can do a whole lot of talk shows around it. Maybe involve people who actually did the wrong. You know, if there is a, let's say, and I am not saying that they do, but okay, anyway, let me say ABC mine, right? Trying to avoid to call names, just people come for me now. But call it ABC Mine. ABC Mine was given a Rodiport area to mine and so forth, and they left. Go on and have a conversation about who are the owners, right? And list them and blacklist them to do business with South Africa, if you like. Call the people, the board of members, all the members that are in the board, call them out, actually mention them by names to say, oh, so and so, so and so, and have a conversation around them and what they should have done with their qualifications, what qualifications they have. Like, just put a blast on them, if you like. But in the absence of that, perhaps we would need to have a conversation around saying, is it perhaps wise or doable for government to actually own these mines and run these mines, and it becomes a full state-owned project, or just stop them from mining all in all. I don't know, but for me it's just to say, what, we ought to have a conversation around the mining space and the lack of rehabilitating the land when you have mined, or when you feel that the mine is no longer as profitable as you would have liked it to be. And my thinking is that these guys open the channel where people can still come and mine and sell the products to them, and they can put them into the system legally. So they just don't want to maybe for them it does not make sense to carry on mining when you're not making as much in terms of what you've put in and what you get out thereof, but someone needs to be held accountable. But again, this is South Africa. It's a talk shop. We will never we will never stand up and say we want to do anything, really, in my view. At least if things are the way they are, I don't see any projection of us maybe changing how we do things. I don't see any of us doing anything, really. You just look at the saga that happened now with the miners, the illegal miners. Nobody seems to be having a conversation to say, okay, who owned the mine? Maybe they are having a conversation. I just haven't met the conversators, if there is such a word. Because we ought to have a conversation to say, okay, who owned the mine? How many shafts did they have? And when they left, if they felt that this thing is no longer as profitable, what did they do to try and rehabilitate? Because from what I'm hearing, there was like 4,000 people odd. Maybe I'm wrong, but there was over 1,000 of people. 1,000 people, guys. 1,000, just 1,000 alone. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people to be under the ground and mining and doing whatever, in fact, doing it illegally even. So somebody ought to have a conversation to say, okay, the mine owners, what did you do to rehabilitate the land so that the land does not look the way it looked, or it does not give permission to the illegal miners to play in that space, seeing that now these guys are going in there. They were having a party. People were sent staff in there. They were living. Even the ones who did not want to come out at first, those guys were living. They had supplies for some time, because for you to be down under the ground, what am I saying? Yeah, but to be under the ground for that long, that means you had enough supplies, because there wasn't any supplies going in. and what was supposed to happen, really, you know. Hence I say, look, for me, I do listen to and I do hear when the EFF says these things, the state ownership of things like your banks, you know, things like the mining space. I know that, look, I may not be as informed, but I think we ought to play a little bit more on there. We need to be more tighter. If we can make our rules a bit more tight, if we can take over and it just becomes fully state owned, if it's feasible, then maybe we should do that. Because then if it's owned by a government, when they no longer feel that it's profitable for them, they will know what to do to rehabilitate. Or if they don't, then we can fully look at the state and say, you guys are failing us. You know, right now it's look at that one, no, actually look at that one, oh no, actually that one was given a responsibility to do this and that, and they did not do it, and so on and so forth. And that does not serve any purpose for us. It does not help us in any way, in any shape, in any form. It does not do anything for us. But we will continuously have those people going underground illegally. And when they come up onto the surface, they come into our communities, they will be raping and killing our people. I mean, the saga that happened, I think it was a year before last, or a few years back, where people were shooting a music video and guys appeared and some stuff were done to those people. You know, it's not nice. It's not nice, really. So we ought to at least try and have a conversation, and our government must help us with tightening stuff. But like I said, it's just gonna be a talk shop, because these guys are eating together. You know, they don't care about us. Who are we anyway? You know, we are nobodies. We are a bunch of nobodies who don't matter in this thing, and it's sad, you know. But yeah, that's what's on my mind at the moment. But yeah, I mean, let's meet on the next one. We can have a conversation on down under. That's what they say. Easy then.